13:08. Again, I forgot to start my recording at the beginning of the lecture. So you would have lost out on about 8 minutes of recording time. Doesn't matter, be that as it may. Just to repeat what I mentioned for the recording for people like S. Maniram, who doesn't attend full-time lectures. Mr. Naya had submitted his ethics training certificate, and he submitted it into the MATLAB file request on Dropbox. So what I did is I created a link in Dropbox for Mr. Naya and for everybody to submit their ethics training. And it's in the chat. So if you look at my chat and you click on my chat link, which says dropbox.com, it opens up file requests. And this is how you will submit your ethics training certificates. There we go. It's an ethics training certificate in this folder, which is into the click on add files, say files from your computer or files from this computer or files from Dropbox, files from computer, and let's say yes, I do. All right, so let's look for my ethics. Where's my certificate? Oopsie. There we go. There's my ethics training certificate. I'm going to click on open. And now I'm going to click on upload. So this is how I want you to upload your certificate. Yay. Now let me show you what happens when you upload your certificate. I receive an email in my email, right? Let's go to my email. Let me go and open that up. And let's see if I receive the email. Yes, there we go. There we go. So I got, you created a new request for ethics training certificates. But is that all right, let's open it up. Let's open it up, preview your request. It should be in my folder. Mr. Naya, do you want to do that as we speak, or you'll do it after the lecture? Mr. Naya? Hello, Mr. Naya, are you there? Hello, Mr. Naya. Hello, Mr. Naya. Hello. Mr. Naya, are you there? Oops, this sounds like a seance, yeah? Seance. Right, so let's open it up. There we go. There's my certificate. So by this afternoon, I'm going to see Mr. Naya's certificates and the rest of your certificates. So right now you have a mark in column 1 for your your Moodle quiz. Column 2, you will have your. Sorry, was that you, Mr. Naya?
Yeah, no, my apologies. I have some network issues.
Okay. Doesn't matter. But you can hear me loud and clear, Mr. Naya?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So I created a file request in my Dropbox folder for you to upload your certificate. Now, had we been in a face-to-face in-person lecture, I would have collected it with the printout, but we are now doing file requests, and we're also saving the environment. We're not printing it out. We are submitting it by online means, and the online method is Dropbox. Now, what I would also like to do, there we go. I got the email. Yippee. So I got the email. It said, here's what you were uploaded. And it says, Prinavan Govender uploaded one file to ethics training. So this is my proof and that I received your certificate. Okay, so that's how I know that Mr. Naya submitted his. It's somewhere here. All right, doesn't really matter. For now, I'm going to close my email and I'm going to close the Dropbox folder. So I'll be expecting your ethics training certificates by the end of tomorrow. All right, by the end of tomorrow. So I'm going to close that. Now, the other day we tried working. So I'm going to try it one more time. If you could please tell me whether you can hear the video. I've been trying to perfect this, and for some odd reason, it's not working when I click from the PowerPoint presentation. So let me go to, all right, so YouTube, and I'm going to play this from my, I'm going to share my file, and if someone could please tell me that they are able to.
This t-shirt is on sale at Walmart in the USA at an incredible $5.97. How is this price possible? Made miles away from the shop, shipped around the world, stored in a warehouse, and then onto the shelves of a store. Of course, Walmart is a giant. It's the world's biggest retailer and the third largest employer. In the USA alone, Walmart has more than 4,600 stores in which 130 million people shop each week. Second, 400 people shop at one of the 10,700 stores that Walmart has in 27 countries. Walmart had revenues of $466.1 billion in net sales in 2012. How can Walmart stay at the top with that extraordinary profitability when it's selling t-shirts at $5.99?
Hello, my students. Are you able to hear the video?
So we could hear it in the beginning, it played fine, but then like towards the middle, like it just like completely cut off from my
Oh,
side.
no. Okay, Ms. Naya, I'm going to try it again. I'm so sorry to do this to you guys, but I have to learn and figure it out how it's going because I'm going to try another video, right? That was that was from chapter 3. This was the one from YouTube, right? It doesn't on Dell. We did this the other day, and let's try it out now. Mr. Naya, are you
Sorry, broke up.
Thank you, Mr. Naya. I hope this video played. Mr. Naya,
Perfect.
it was music throughout.
Perfectly.
Background music. Perfectly. Okay, so I learned the setting. Class, will you bear with me? I'm going to try the other video, the Walmart video. This explains the concept of supply chain management. So the example that I spoke to you just now was the Dell laptop, where products were made in various countries and they were all shipped to China. So now let's take on Walmart. And I pray and hope that that you're able to view this.
This t-shirt is on sale at Walmart in the UK at an incredible $5.97. This price and one to the
Mr. Naya,
shelves
are
of a
you able
store.
to view the...
Of course, Walmart is a giant. It's the world's biggest retailer and the third largest employer. In the USA alone, Walmart has more than 4,600 stores in which 130 million people shop each week. And around the world, every 100 people shop at one of the 10,700 that Walmart has with that extraordinary profitability when it's selling t-shirts at $5.97. Let's begin by having a look at a Walmart store in the USA. The average hourly wage of the workers that sell this t-shirt is $8.81, which translates to an annual pay of $15,576 based upon Walmart's full-time status of 34 hours per week. This is significantly below the federal poverty level. Here we have a first hint. And what about benefits? If you're a part-time employee, which most Walmart workers are, you don't get any healthcare coverage by the company. Walmart holds another record on this. It is the employer that has the highest percentage of workers having to rely on government assistance, thus receiving more than $1 billion per year in subsidies from the U.S. taxpayers. Faced with these conditions, don't Walmart workers in the USA complain? They do, but every worker who speaks out faces instant retaliation measures, ranging from disciplinary hearings to hour cuts and even dismissal. But let's get back to the journey of our t-shirt. Walmart is the largest mover and seller of goods in the world. Most of the goods sold at Walmart in the US are made abroad. When arriving in the country, they're stored in giant warehouses run by third-party contractors hired by Walmart. Agency workers and day laborers work inside these warehouses in an extremely stressful and dangerous environment where injuries and accidents are common. They're paid very low wages tied to a piece rate system, receive no benefits, and face retaliation if they report injuries or complain about conditions. And what do we find if we follow the t-shirt back to its place of origin? Walmart's supply chain comprises more than 100,000 suppliers and millions of workers. The company's purchasing practices aim to get the maximum flexibility and the lowest prices from its suppliers, who in order to do business with Walmart, pass on these pressures to their own workers with very poor pay and often dangerous working conditions. Our t-shirt is made in Bangladesh, the world's second most important garment producer. Bangladesh textile workers are among the lowest paid in the world. 60 to 80-hour work weeks, no overtime pay, no health care, and illegal subcontracting are common. Workers who speak out about these conditions and try to organize regularly face intimidation, dismissal, and even violence. Walmart is the second largest buyer of garments from Bangladesh, a country where more than half of textile factories are vulnerable to collapse, and fires with fatal consequences have become commonplace. After the largest factory fire in the history of Bangladesh, in which 117 workers died, Walmart explicitly refused to pay more to upgrade Bangladeshi factory buildings. And even after the deadliest industrial accident in the history of the world, when the Rana Plaza building collapsed and 1,129 people died in horrendous circumstances, Walmart refused to join a large number of global companies that signed a legally binding agreement to improve building and fire safety in Bangladesh. Perhaps our $5.97 t-shirt was made right here at Rana Plaza. That would mean that Walmart is a top company because it aims to cut costs at any price across its giant supply chain and stores, without any consideration for ethical standards or social responsibilities. And this certainly doesn't only affect those supplying and working for Walmart. With its size and reach, Walmart is dictating standards that affect workers in all industries and all around the world, leading the global race to the bottom for working conditions. Taking on a giant such as Walmart requires workers and unions at every part of the supply chain and in the stores to join forces. The Uni-Walmart Global Union Alliance is demanding that the company improve working conditions, respect the rights of its global workforce, and sign a global agreement with Uni, which ensures that Walmart employees will have to fully exercise their rights to freedom of association and collective bargaining. Workers are also uniting across Walmart's supply chain to win dignity and safety. Walmart has a history of labor rights violations on a global scale. Together, we must stop Walmart's race to the bottom. Together, we can bring a human face to Walmart's supply chain. Together, we will gain respect for Walmart workers all around the world.
Yay, I'm so happy that you're able to view this. What I will do is I'll include the link in our chat, right? So that you have access to it and you can watch it at your leisure. Right, so there's the Walmart supply chain. And what I will also do is I'll include the Dell. So the reason I'd like to include videos is that try and make my lectures a little bit more exciting, I hope. Right, so with the little video or two, if you look at the, and also by watching a video on Walmart, it explains to you the concepts that I've been trying to get across in terms of supply chain management. So that was on the previous slide, slide number 15. Just confirm, Mr. Kumalo, Mr. Hadebe, have I submitted or emailed you or WhatsApped you chapter 8? It says chapter 8, but it deals with supply chain management ERP concepts. You can either type it in the chat or you can unmute and inform me that you have received it. Mr. Naya, Mr. Kumalo, Mr. Buthelezi, Mr.
Yeah,
Hadebe.
sorry, post it in the group.
I posted on
No,
the
so
group.
I haven't
Okay.
received it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You have?
I haven't received it, sir.
Okay. Can I post it in the chat right now? Will that be
Yes.
okay? All right, let me post that in the chat. So you have a copy of chapter 8. Don't look at it as being chapter 8. It's actually supply chain management. Right, so it's now posted in the chat. Mr. Naya confirmed that I submitted it to the WhatsApp group. Maybe I'll put it into your Moodle classroom as well. And I'll also upload it to MS Teams. So let me now share my screen in terms of, let's go through supply chain. So supply chain management has been defined as the design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring of supply chain activities with the objective of creating net value, building a competitive infrastructure, leveraging worldwide logistics, synchronizing supply with demand, and measuring performance globally. So in the examples that I've given you, one was the Dell computers, and the other example was the Walmart example. You would notice that it was taking place on a global scale. I don't know if any of you watched the video like the way I did, where I critically looked for something that identifies us, and there it was, the South African flag in the Walmart video. By the way, I've watched this video a good couple of times because I wanted to learn how to ensure that my sound appears in MS Teams. And what I discovered that one, I need to have a fast network. Two, I need to ensure that my YouTube video is playing not from PowerPoint, but from the address by itself. So let's go to the next one. It says, what are the advantages of supply chain management systems? It says that there's secure, accurate supply chain metrics. It helps control bullwhip effect. It facilitates visualization of the supply chain metrics. It improves productivity. It increases profitability, and it helps to integrate it with the value systems. Right? We're going to come through this in our practical lecture on ERP systems, and I'll give you an exercise for you to do as well. Oh, well, when and if we see each other face to face. Business process management. The literature reports 3 alternatives to business process management: automation, streamlining, business process engineering. Let's go to automation. While automation can make a business more efficient, it cannot be used to provide a competitive advantage. Simply automating a bad process does not make it better. Organizations that are serious about improving their business processes will also create structures to manage those processes. Again, you can read about automation streamlining. I'm going to take you now through to some questions. Read through all of this: business process management, reporting. This is from, I would mention to you, another textbook, and I am merely using this to have shown you the YouTube videos and the supply chain management. Let me now go to typical exam questions that could appear. Well, examination tests. Right. So let's go to important concepts. Right. So chapter 4, the topic of supply chain management. They have what is known as a bill of material. The recipe listing the materials, including quantities needed to make a product. So for the laptop example, the little movie that I showed you on Dell, the products that they required was the casing, the hard disk drive, the screen, and ultimately all of that had to be shipped to China for assembly. In our motor car example, the recipe or the materials needed to make our car in terms of the assembly line was the tires, the lights, the body panels, the leather interior, the electronics. In the example of Walmart, they were making a t-shirt. You probably had to have the cotton, the t-shirt itself, the labor resources, all the materials, the recipe to make the t-shirt. In terms of supply chain management, what's capacity is the amount of that an item can be produced. So in terms of our Walmart example, 1,000 t-shirts are manufactured at the end of the workday. Let's not talk about all those gross infringements of labor laws and the salaries that people received. In terms of a motor vehicle, 100 motor vehicles were produced at the end of the day or the end of the month. If it was, let's say, for instance, Rolls-Royce assembly line, they will only produce like 10 vehicles in a month or 20 vehicles in a month, right? Whatever it is, that's the capacity. Cash to cycle time, the time that elapses from when the suppliers are paid for raw materials to cash is collected from the customer. It's used in the supply chain management metrics. Cash to cash cycle time. Initial fill rate, the percentage of an order that the supplier provided in the first shipment. I'll just read through this very briefly. Initial order lead time, the time needed for the supplier to fill an order. Lead time, the cumulative time required for a supplier to receive and to process the order. Lot sizing, the process for determining purchase and production order quantities. Master production schedule, the production plan for finished goods. Metrics, measurement of performance. MRP record, that's the materials requirements planning. On-time performance, a measure of how often a supplier meets agreed upon delivery dates. Repetitive manufacturing, a manufacturing environment in which production lines are switched from one product to another similar product. Rough cut planning, standard costs, supply chain, all the activities that occur between the growing or mining of raw materials and the appearance of a finished product. Vertical integration, the extent to which a company produces the components and assemblies using the product and its manufacturers. So these are the key terms in chapter 4. Let me go through some typical exam questions that I will ask of you. So there's a question. Let's start from the top here. I've got all these questions, and all I will do is I'll convert them into a quiz on Moodle. So let's start with the first question that I can possibly ask you in the next Moodle quiz. Okay, let's find a question. Where's my quiz? The question I had. Right, so here's the question. This term is used to describe the maximum amount of bars that can be produced. So I may not necessarily use the word bars. I'll use the maximum number of cars that can be produced. The maximum number of t-shirts that can be produced. Anybody with an answer? Oh man, you can see the answer there. Oh, how do I hide this answer? Mr. Naya? I ducked the answer. There we go. Oops. Mr. Naya, what's the term used to describe the maximum amount of any particular product that can be produced?
I think it's capacity, huh?
Very good, very good. Did you read that answer, Mr. Naya, or you read chapter 4 before you came to class?
Read chapter 4.
That was a joke, right?
That was a joke.
Okay, let's go to the next question. What costs are the normal costs of manufacturing a product? So this will come from supply chain management. Anybody, Mr. Hadebe, Mr. Kumalo, Ms. Jagannath, Mr. Hadebe. What costs are the normal, what are the normal costs of manufacturing products?
Standard cost.
Yay, is that Mr. Buthelezi? So standard costs are normal costs of manufacturing a product. Let's go to another one. This is a true and false question. True or false? Production planners aggregate products into product groups to reduce the number of variables they must consider when developing a production plan. Okay, so you would have had to have gone through the PowerPoint presentation, and I would have had to submit, given and take a wild guess for now. Not that you have done it, Mr. Buthelezi. True or false? You have a 50% chance of getting it right. Mr. Buthelezi, true or false? Mr. Kumalo? Mr. Hadebe?
True.
Mr. Hadebe says true. So production planners aggregate products into product groups to reduce the number of variables they must consider when developing a production plan. Oops. This is a common term in manufacturing for aggregate planning, rough cut planning. Let's go through some of the other paragraph type questions. And there's another one. Oh, there's another term here. This term describes all the activities that occur between the growing of a raw material and the appearance of its finished product on the store shelf. Definite question for the next Moodle test, because this is what I'm talking about in this chapter under ERP systems. Anybody? Somebody? Mr. Hadebe, Mr. Kumalo,
Supply
Jagannath.
chain.
Mr. Hadebe, my webmaster, my web trader.
Supply chain, sir.
Supply chain. Great, great, great. And the next one. The extent to which a company produces the components and assemblies used in the product it manufactures. I'll give you the answer. Vertical integration, cash to cash cycle time. So please go and read. I will give you all these terms. Right, so I'm giving you the terms. There's the terms, there's the terms. This is Control C, and I'm going to paste that in the chat group, in the chat. So if you look at the chat, those are all the terms out there. So you should copy that and paste it. This is from supply chain management. So you are postgraduate students. I don't need to go through each and every single term with you and hold your hand and walk you through it. I'd like to improve your knowledge on supply chain management.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to leave it at Mr. Hadebe. Yes, my web trader.
So the chapter you're reading is chapter 4 notes, right? Not the chapter 8 business process notes.
No. Chapter 8 is from another textbook. Chapter 8 is from another textbook. It's the section is supply chain management.
No, so can you send the chapter 4 to the group chat?
You can copy and paste it from our chat here. Oh, you mean on
No, so
the WhatsApp group?
the group chat. Yeah, the group chat. So I want the full PDF. I don't have the PDF.
No, I can't give you the full PDF because the full PDF has all the questions in it, which I'm going to repeat in the Moodle test.
Oh, okay. Can you say? Do you give us chapter 4 though? I don't
As a
have it.
PowerPoint, yes, I have given it to you as a PowerPoint.
Okay, so
Okay, can I post it to the WhatsApp group, Mr. Hadebe, my web trader?
yes, please, sir.
Okay, I'm doing that now. Right, so you have chapter 4, the important concepts from there, right? You should check your WhatsApp status. It would appear out there. Now, the next thing that I'd like to share with you, I found another journal article on ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. Right, and I'm going to share that screen, and I'm going to share that just to help you to understand what a journal article is, because at a postgraduate level, that's what you should be working towards. You should be working towards journal articles. You should be working towards reading contents proceedings. You should be on the trajectory of research. So let's go to my journal articles. And right. So here's my journal. Here's another journal article. It's called The Critical Success Factors for ERP Implementation and Organizational Fit Perspective. And the authors are Hong and Kim. And this was published in 2002 in the Information Management Journal, Elsevier. Now, every journal article that you should be looking at from now onwards would have the following structure. It will have what is known as an abstract, which is a basic, I'll call it a summary of what's going on in the journal. It will have an introduction. Here's my introduction to the journal article. And this, in a way, gives you the rationale or the motivation as to why we are writing a journal article. Then the next it'll have is what is known as a theoretical perspective in the journal article. So in this case, we are talking about success factors in enterprise resource planning, and the theoretical factors that the authors Hong and Kim are talking about. How does the what does the organizational fit of an ERP system is like? And there's another theoretical perspective. They're looking at ERP implementation contingencies. In a journal article, you will also have a research model or a hypothesis. In this journal article, they are telling me that they are examining the relationship between the organizational fit of an ERP system and the implementation success. So if you look carefully at this journal article, initially they spoke about theoretical perspectives. And the two theoretical perspectives they mentioned was ERP implementation contingencies and organizational fit of ERP. They now consider this to be their research model and their hypothesis. Let's look at the next part of this. Under the research model, they are talking about ERP implementation success factors, ERP adaptation, process adaptation, organizational resistance. In the previous journal article, we were talking about success factors, and if you have to critique the two articles, you'll see there's some similarities between the two journal articles. So the first hypothesis that they are stating is that organizational fit for ERP is positively related to its implementation success. That's a hypothesis. At the end of this journal article, they can either support the hypothesis or they can dispute the hypothesis and basically reject the hypothesis. So they will now state that organizational fit of ERP is not positively related, or they can say it's negatively related to ERP implementation. But I have a gut feeling that organizational fit is positively related. I'm not sure if my gut feeling is true or false. You will have to read this journal article and come up to your conclusion. Hypothesis number 2 is there is an interaction effect of the level of ERP adaptation on the relationship between organizational fit of ERP and ERP implementation success. So that's another hypothesis that they're coming up with. And at the end of it all, you can either prove or disprove this hypothesis based on your method of study. Which takes me to the next part, your research method. How did they go about selecting a sample population for this study? In this example, the target of the study was the organization that has implemented ERP systems. So if they came to DUT and DUT was using an ERP system, then DUT could have been one of the targets in this sample population. 50 firms were identified on the list provided by ERP vendors. We contacted the project managers and charge of ERP implementation. So by you reading this journal article and adopting their conclusions, you are actually basing it upon the study of about 50 firms, 350 survey questionnaires. So this is the research method. Let's go on. How did they, what measurement development that they had? What were some of the contingencies? And let's now go and look at the conclusion. What, after interviewing all these employees in the 50 companies and 350 questionnaires that were received, maybe you can find out how many were actually returned. What were the results? Now, this is the important part of any journal article that you are looking at. What is the conclusion? What is the hypothesis that you're going to prove? Yes or no? No. So at the end of it all, I'm looking at the conclusion of this journal article. Go ahead and read all of that. It says the correlation matrix between variables is presented. Read all of this. And let's see whether they either support or dispute the hypothesis. Although ERP implementation has been one of the most significant challenges for information system practitioners in the last decade, relatively little research has been conducted about ERP implementation. By the way, I'm just giving you a disclaimer. This is a journal article from 2002. We are now in 2021. In the previous section, we found that organizational fit for ERP has a significant effect on ERP implementation success. Remember, I told you my gut feeling about that hypothesis? And go on, read. You are going to do this. Oh, this is a nice thing about organizational resistance. Because organizational resistance did not interact with organizational fit to explain ERP implementation, had a significantly negative association with it. Read. Let's ultimately find out what is the conclusion. At the end of this, you're going to have a conclusion. Where's the conclusion here? For successful ERP implementation managers as well as top management should be able to assess the fit between their organization and the target ERP system before its adoption. And once it is adopted, it should measure and manage the impact of ERP and process adaptations from a risk assessment approach as suggested in Brem et al., which is a reference to minimize the potential business disruptions and the user resistance. So in this journal article, when they're talking about factors that influence the ERP adoption, their conclusion was that managers, implementation managers, top managers must assess the fit for organization and the target ERP systems. Now, if I had to compare it to the previous journal article that I was talking about, the previous journal article mentioned that in order for ERP systems to be successful, we need the support of management. Can you see how we are critiquing and we are looking for similarities or differences between the two journal articles? This is the critical eye that I'd like to ensure that you as postgraduate students begin to develop. You are not simply summarizing or giving a description or a narrative of what's going on in a journal article. You are critiquing it and you're saying, yes, this person in 2002, Hong and Kim, said that you need to have the support of top management or middle management. The journal article from 2000, authors were XYZ and ABC, said a similar thing. You will now give your opinion and state maybe you agree or you disagree with that statement. Let's go to Brem et al. Brem et al. Means there's more than one author, two authors. There it is out here. Brem et al. Tailoring ERP systems, a spectrum of choices and their implementations. Proceedings of the 34th Annual Hawaiian International Conference on Systems. All right. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it inside Google and see if I can pick up a article. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to open up Google. So here's Google opening it up. I'm going to paste that reference. Oh boy, look at that reference, how I pasted it, man. Oopsie. Oopsie, didn't look very nice, did it? Oh man, what was it? Okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I'm almost done with the lecture. 4 more minutes. BREHM. BRHEM. HEINZL. MARKUS. Marcus. And TAILOR. Tailoring ERP SYSTEMS. Let's see if we can find a journal article on that. Oh, there we go. I'm so happy I found it. Tailoring ERP system, a spectrum of choices. Yay, 2003. So that's the article. Aha, so let's go and download the article. By the way, I take old articles because it's easy to find and I don't have to go through libraries and pay for it or whatever. If you have an article from 2021 or 2020, I noticed it has to go through a library and they probably have to pay for it or they only give you parts of it. So I'm going to upload the journal article. I'm so happy it worked. Remember the other day we tried it and it didn't work. We couldn't find that article. So let me go to my chat. And I'm going to upload this article into my chat. Right, so upload from my computer on the desktop. Tailoring an ERP system. Yay, I found it. Let's just display that on screen. I had it just now. Oh man, okay, there it is. Yeah, it should be appearing. Let me try and open it. Tailoring ERP. There we go. There's the article. So this was an article in 2003, and it's found in ResearchGate, 11 pages. Let's zoom it a little bit. So I've given you another article for you to read. Right, last week we were talking about it. Tailoring ERP systems, a spectrum of choices and their implementation. So, whoa, look at this. Department of Information Systems, University of Beirut. University of Hong Kong, Marcus. And there's the abstract. Remember I told you any journal article has an abstract. There's the abstract. It's a summary of the whole journal article, an introduction, prior research, or they call this the background research, or they call it literature review, tailoring implementation of ERP systems, tailoring and maintenance of an ERP system. There we go. They mentioned SAP. We are also talking about SAP. So I'd like it if you could, I've given you about 3 or 4 journal articles now. Look at them, read through it, look at the references, look at the conclusions. By the way, this was a tip that a supervisor had mentioned to me, Professor Ramrathan from UKZN. He said, read the abstract and read the conclusion. That would tell you what's going on in the journal article. Obviously, you have to read the rest of it, but class, it's now 2 o'clock. I'll stop. Oh, yes, 2 o'clock. I'll stop at this point. Do I have any questions? In today's lecture, we covered supply chain management. I was able to play the video, the YouTube video on supply chain management with the Dell example and the Walmart example. And I went over some important concepts from chapter 4, which will appear in the next Moodle assessment. We also went through the ethics training for Mr. Naya. He's able to now access the file requests in Dropbox and upload it. So you have 3 assessments thus far. Another one coming up would be your Moodle from chapter 4. And I'll also repeat questions from chapter 1, 2, and 3. And hopefully I can try and do some practical work with you. I don't know how I'm going to assess that, but I'll try. And I also concluded today's lecture with a journal article from 2003, Tailoring ERP Systems. And I compared that to the previous journal article that I had. With that, I'm going to stop the recording. Prior to that, do you have any questions? Any